he was a MMA boxer or an underground fighter. This is mostly suggested because of those Russell signs on the marks on his knuckles.
Again, those are the calluses and the cuts on his knuckles.
Yeah, so they're, like I said, most often seen. They're on specific knuckles usually. They're on your pointer finger knuckles and your ring finger knuckles. And the way you get them, I'm so sorry to say this, but
this is why I gave a little ear warning.
Yeah, the reason that you get this is because when you are sticking your fingers down your throat, it's where your teeth hit.
To induce a gag reflex.
Yeah, to induce a gag reflex to make yourself vomit. It's where your teeth hit your knuckles when your gag reflex kicks in. And they will generally hit the same place, the same time, over and over and over again. It will cause calluses and cuts to build up in the same spot on your knuckles. But there is something to suggest that you also get calluses like that if you're fighting.
Or if you're doing certain kind of physical labor. He had, you know what's funny? If you look at the photos, I can't remember which hand it is that they specifically take the photo of that has a cut before and after the pointer finger knuckle.
They both had the marks on them.
Right, but if you look, he's also got scratches on his wrist.
On one hand,
So I'm not willing to totally get behind this because he's got other wounds.
Well, but they're not necessarily from the same thing or the same activity, though.
They're not necessarily from different things either.
Maybe not. Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I don't like the fighter one is that they're kind of on, if you make a fist and look down at it, point your fist forward, so the forward part is what you would punch somebody with, right? Mm-hmm. And at the top of the hand that you're looking at that's where the marks are, is on the top.
Right. They're on the back side of the knuckle.
And so, but if you're fighting, the part that gets banged up is the front of the fist, which is not where these marks are. They're up and around behind the knuckles.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm not keen on the whole boxer kind of.
I'm also
idea.
not keen on it either, but
no, I do not think that he saw Fight Club.
Yeah. Besides which, what's the point of getting expensive orthodontia if you're going to go out and get your teeth knocked out?
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I agree. It's not. There's nothing good here. I wrote a bunch of other stuff in this theory, but it's not good. So it doesn't really matter. We're just not going to talk about it.
Okay.
Another theory is that he came to America as an unaccompanied minor from a foreign country.
Maybe his parents left the country and forgot to take him with.
Yeah, he was.
Or sent him to this country and were not able to join him or find him when they got here.
Yeah.
Because that does happen.
Yeah, and if he was really like 23, 24.
At least.
Then it's true. That would have been a really good explanation of he came from a well-off family. Got his braces off recently. They sent him over here. They were like, all right, go to America. We'll join you there. And then they lost touch somehow.
During the Great Canadian Civil War.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, maybe it was I don't know.
It could be. I mean, things do happen. I mean, and maybe he wasn't even a minor when he came here. Let's assume he came from, say, Mexico. Mexico just saw a couple of really stupendous earthquakes. Imagine, he comes up here looking for work, whatever. His family gets killed, in an earthquake
in some natural disaster,
or something like that. It's conceivable,
Yeah. The next couple theories are all tied up around one theory, kind of.
One central theme,
One central theme here. And it's because in America we literally cannot ignore this. Here's like our little disclaimer, this is not an episode about 9/11, but...
Let's talk about 9/11.
Hey, you know what? Jet fuel does not melt steel beams.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. Again, we don't want to get into any of that, but
it is so close after 9/11. That's why
it's so close.
No, actually, this particular day that he checked in, my mother was in Victoria, BC. On 9/11, she went up there with like 3 of her high school friends, and they all decided, just for fun, for old time's sake, they'd all get together and go to Victoria for a weekend, and they were going to leave on 9/11. And guess what?
They couldn't.
They closed the border, and my mom was stuck up there for days. And she probably passed Lyle on the highway going the other direction.
Yeah.
coming home.
I had a buddy who got
Yeah.
stuck in California. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing. He flew down there for something. Was going to fly home. He had to buy a car and drive home.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that might be that's one of the things I wonder about old Lyle, if maybe he was kind of stuck, for a few days, because that's only 9/14 is only 3 days after, as far as I know.
Air traffic was
air
still
traffic,
shut down.
Border crossings were all shut down.
It was full lockdown mode.
Oh, it was. Yeah, it was crazy. No air traffic. It was the weirdest thing. You go outside, there'd be the only plane you'd see in the sky would be a military fighter jet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I remember it.
It was a weird time.
It was really weird.
Yeah.
But here's some theories on why his suicide might have been attached to 9/11 in some way. Again, this ignores what we think we know about his ethnicity anyway. Just forewarning. There are some people who very irresponsibly suggest that Lyle was of Middle Eastern descent and had helped plan the 9/11 attacks.
Why is that irresponsible, though?
Because it's just straight up racist.
Why
They're
is it
saying
racist?
he must have been Middle Eastern.
Oh, yeah.
And therefore, because he was from somewhere in that region of
Yeah.
the world, he must have been involved. Because all Middle Easterners were
Well,
involved.
no, I know,
you know?
I get that. I get that whole thing. But if you look at him, if you take closely, and that's why I think they should look at his DNA and really try to understand what his ethnicity is, since it seems to me that Lyle is probably not from North America, because
I think he's more from Europe.
Yeah, I think, and he could be from the Middle East. Now, if you look at the pictures of the hijacker, he actually bears a pretty decent resemblance to Muhammad Atta, who was the lead hijacker in 9/11. Not saying he was his brother or his cousin, but could be. He could. If you
But
especially,
there's absolutely nothing to support that. Just
No,
like
it's-
any of
it's-
this
it's
is the hard part.
speculation.
Yeah.
It's all speculation, but there are other things. The fact that he had absolutely no luggage, that nobody knows exactly how he got there, why he was there. And one of the things that really interests me is he got the paper, the local paper, the Sunday paper. And in fact, that might have been why he was pacing the highway on Saturday afternoon, just because it was a Sunday paper. Those usually get delivered on Saturday afternoon. He might have been waiting for the paper, and maybe there was some sort of coded message in the personal ads, and it was time to, and it was basically pulling the plug on you, Lyle. Kill yourself or something because you know too much.
Mission canceled.
Yeah, and again, that's all pure speculation on my part. But there's some strange stuff about the guy. Like, for example, he had exactly enough money to pay his hotel bill, plus just like $8 left over in change. Just enough money to pay his hotel bill. Some people have speculated he used an ATM. There's an ATM or two in town. But of course, if he did that, where the hell is his ATM card? And I don't even know if the local police check ATM activity to see if there had been any, and just look at the names. Who go to the bank and see who was not a local that used this ATM. That would be useful information. I had no idea if they did that or not. Obviously, getting rid of your ATM card, your wallet, your passport, all that stuff would be very, very easy to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but
Stick in a purple bag and toss it in the trash.
yeah, but it is interesting to me that he had precisely enough money, within a few bucks, to cover his bill, which was nice of him, to not leave them holding the bag. And so again, I don't think this theory is completely racist and outlandish. It's fairly unsupported. But then again, when you think about some of the things about the story, like I said, the total lack of any luggage, the fact that he had exactly enough money to cover that bill. There's some things about it that are really, really interesting, and I really think they need to find out what part of the world he really came from. Although not to say that if he was ethnically an Arab, he's not an American. Of course he is, or could be.
Or Canadian.
Or Canadian or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Well, yeah. I think that just because it happened around 9/11, yeah, I don't think that necessarily means anything. But based on some of the other weird, hinky stuff that happened with this case, I'm thinking, well, maybe, and of course it could be coincidental. It could have been something totally unrelated to 9/11, but he's still, say, a Russian spy.
Yeah.
And they give him the order to, either take out the president or kill yourself. He says, okay, flip a
Turns
coin.
out a cyanide toothpick didn't work.
Or something. I don't know, but
Yeah, I think that there are more sympathetic reasons why that are tied up with 9/11 that he might have killed himself. That don't end with him being a terrorist.
Yeah. There are other possibilities. Yeah.
One of them would be that his family could have died in the 9/11 attack. That would also explain why nobody was able to say
ID him.
Yeah, like that's. I mean, because his picture has been pretty widely circulated. Widely
yeah.
circulated.
Yeah.
It's also been wildly.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Lori Erica Ruff. You know, it turns out that one was solved, but.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people looking at this picture and really nobody said, anything. So that could explain that. It could also explain, maybe he did have some kind of familial connection to Amanda Park. Sorry, I forgot where we were at for a second. And, he and his entire family traveled over there and then they all died in the 9/11 attack and he made his way back, slowly to where they were from. And, I don't know.
Maybe they vacationed there when he was a kid. He had fond memories of that wonderful family vacation.
Yeah. There's also a theory, I don't like this one as much, that he was supposed to have died in 9/11. That whole, a la that post-secret Sneha Phillips sort of thing.
That whole thing is, I'm pretty sure, an art project.
Yeah, I think
Post-secret.
So too.
Which one is that?
Post-secret, it's the everybody who knew me before 9/11 thinks I'm dead.
That's not post-secret. That's just a secret that was sent into post-secret.
Right. Well, that's what I'm sorry. It always it's always referred to as the post-secret secret, I believe. Is that the proper
postcard?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
that one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is something being creative.
Actually, I said that. I'm confessing now.
Oh.
Yeah. Now you know.
It's about time.
I was gonna say, it explains why nobody we don't know your family or anything.
Yeah,
now we get to take that one off the list too.
Great, perfect.
Yeah, you wonder why you never met my parents, for example.
Yeah. So that's it for the 9/11 theories. I don't like any of them except for maybe the family died in 9/11 and.
I think it's
I think
it's worth a look just because of the coincidence and everything around the date. But then again, other people died and committed suicide around the same time too.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah.
So but it's worth a look, especially again. I think if it turned out his ethnicity was Middle Eastern in origin, well, it'd be worth pondering a little bit anyway.
His ethnicity, though, I mean, I don't want to beat that horse because it kind of is getting there, but his ethnicity could have literally been one of at least a dozen things.
That's why it'd be kind of nice to find out because, like I said, he looks totally like he could totally be American.
He actually looks like
he could be from all kinds of parts of the world.
At times, I think he looks Slavic.
I think he looks exactly like, when they do those progressions of what's everybody going to look like in 100 years? And it's just this amalgamation.
Oh, as you age?
No, it's not as you age. It's the amalgamation
it's all of the ethnicities merge.
Mm-hmm. He looks like that to me.
Got it.
I mean, he really just looks like it's just this jumble of a bunch of stuff, but that's just me. Okay, so the only other theory we have is murder.
Oh, I like this one.
Of course you do.
I always like this one.
And the things that people give to support this are he may not have been alone Sunday night, the complete lack of personal belongings, his room could have been cleaned, they could have taken the backpack that he might have had.
Yeah.
Can you, I'm sorry, you're going to need to give me a little detail. I think I know how this is supposed to have played out, but how was the murder supposed to have been carried out? I mean, he's hanging, and it did not appear that there was any struggle marks on his body.
Yeah,
there was no ligature marks anywhere other than where the belt was. So that's why I'm trying to understand, how this he was murdered theory has anything behind it other than it must be.
Well, two things.
Okay.
One thing that I did not mention before, but I will mention now, is that his system was completely clean. He had no alcohol, tobacco, or drug in his system.
Right.
So he wasn't that. But convincing someone to kill themselves is kind of murder.
Okay, so it's not that somebody hung him there and then held him down till he died.
I don't think that. I have definitely seen some people online say he must have been drugged with some sort of unidentifiable
Well, and we know he wasn't drugged, so...
Well, they were like, oh, it just didn't show up in the toxicology.
Of course,
it didn't.
Hollywood.
You don't really know what they're checking for in the toxicology.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody could have gassed him with carbon monoxide from a car. I don't know if they checked for that or not.
Who knows?
I mean,
yeah. So I don't know. I don't think this theory works particularly well. The only other thing that can come up in evidence for this would be the weird discrepancies in the handwriting, which is Joe was talking a little bit about this earlier.
But yeah, well, the discrepancy in the sign-in note, I think, can be explained pretty easily. Because if you look at it, where he put his name and his address down, it's a piece of paper. I think it was like the back of an envelope, actually. It was obviously a very formal setup at this little motel.
Yeah, so it was actually it was the front of an envelope, and then that was where they would put the cash that he had paid for the night of the hotel, and then anytime anybody would go to pay more towards a room, they would just keep putting it in that envelope, and when they checked out, they would look in the envelope and see
sorted who paid what.
Yeah, and they would look in the envelope and see, okay, you paid for 3 nights, you were here 3 nights, great, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Right. So it was actually on an envelope.
Yeah, it was. And so you can see where somebody has written 3 lines there. They've written, date, name, address, state, in 3 lines. And then you can see Lyle's handwriting, Lyle Stevick from 1019 South Progressive Street. And then below by state it says ID. And then somebody to the right of that has written Meridian, Idaho. It's the same handwriting. It's not Lyle's handwriting, but it's the same handwriting as whoever it was that wrote date, state, date, name, address, and state on the left side.
Well, that could have been the clerk took it from him and said, "Wait, what state?"
Yeah, the clerk. No, that's what I mean. I'm not saying it's suspicious.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Is the clerk said, "What's the city?" and the clerk wrote it, and the clerk was the person.
No,
who wrote
that makes total sense.
And so people say those discrepancies are suspicious. Not at all.
I would agree with that.
But then again, too, I don't know, Meridian, Idaho, or maybe the clerk just knew it was just assumed. I don't know.
You can't because there was no zip code.
Yeah.
If there were a zip code, I'd say the investigators wrote it because they knew, blah, blah, blah. But the one thing I will say is I do think the handwriting, I think he was masking his handwriting, and that explains this. But I will say that the suicide, the note that just said suicide, in the trash looked pretty different to me than the handwriting that said for the room.
Well, I got to tell you, though, like my handwriting can depend on my mood, my posture. Like if I'm standing over a table writing versus sitting down at the table writing, all that stuff affects it. How much coffee I've had. I mean, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I agree.
There's all kinds of things that affect your handwriting.
Yeah, but I mean, the only other thing is that people say that because he had written suicide on that little piece of paper that was somebody he had written home or something like that. But I don't know.
I would think that if he had written anything else, you always see this in the movies, and occasionally this is real, is somebody writes on the little pad of paper that's in the hotel room and then pulls it away, and they can see the impressions in the next couple of sheets of paper.
Yeah, but
you would think that they would have looked for that thing to see, well, did anybody write on this?
You would think that they would have.
But since we don't know what he was doing for 2 days, right? He could have written it somewhere else, or he could have gone and bought a different, just a nice card or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so at the end of the day, this is just a totally unsatisfying case that we've talked about for an hour and a half.
It is unsatisfying. I would like to see them take the isotope analysis and broaden it to the entire world, see what other parts of the world he might have lived in previously.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And another 9/11 connection is perhaps he was a Saudi citizen, and his death was just kind of because he did come out from actually a fairly well-to-do background, but it was kind of a coincidence, and or maybe he was just worried about the future of his country after it turned out that 19 of the guys, like most of the hijackers were Saudi nationals. And Saudi Arabia, of course, is a participant member nation in Interpol, and of course his fingerprints and all the identifying stuff was sent to Interpol. Nothing came back. Could be that the Saudis, for example, got the fingerprints and they ran and it's Ted. Oh, that would be embarrassing after all these other things. Let's just tell them we got no.
Ted doesn't exist.
There ain't no match. No, sorry guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just super unsatisfying and really sad.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it would be nice if we could find out who Lyle was and put a name to his face and everything like that. I mean,
So if you know
maybe
Lyle.
he's got some family. Yeah, if you know Lyle, obviously you're not talking, so we're not going to ask you for an email.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't send us an email.
Don't.
Yeah.
Actually do.
Yeah.
Please, because I'd really
Psychology
love
here.
to know.
Yeah.
Reverse
We don't want to hear.
psychology.
We don't want to read your dumb
Yeah.
email.
Yeah. Well, do you guys have anything else?
I got
to
nothing
add?
else on this one.
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah. If you want to see some of our research that we did, you can find that as well as links to buying merch. You can also listen to our episodes. You can also find an entire comprehensive episode list on our website. That website is, of course, thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. You can listen, you know where you're finding us to listen to us. If you can subscribe wherever you're listening to us, do that if you haven't already. If you can rate and review, do that, because that's how other people find us.
No.
You can find us on social media.
Yep.
We're on Facebook. We're actually twice on Facebook. We've got a page and a group. So like the page, join the group.
Twice.
When
That's
you,
really huge, man.
yeah, when you join the group, make sure to answer those questions, or else our mods probably won't let you in. You
They're not that personal either, by
They're
the way.
bouncers of the internet.
They are. They are our bouncers of the internet. You can find us on Twitter, where we are Thinking Sideways. You can also find us on Reddit, where our subreddit is, surprise, Thinking Sideways.
Whoa.
I know it's a huge surprise.
Yeah.
Just twist. You can send us an email if you just want to talk to us, or like whatever. I don't really care why. Just send us an email. The email address is thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. I think that's everything.
Pretty much. And by the way,
Yeah, we did that. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
iTunes, Google Play, yeah,
all
it.
of
We're
that
golden.
having been said, I'm gonna get out of here.
We'll talk to you guys later.
Yeah. Back on the bus for me.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thinking Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data to formulate a reply.
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Hey guys, welcome to another super exciting episode of Thinking Sideways, the podcast. I'm Devin, joined as always by,
Joe.
And Steve.
and we're gonna tackle another unsolved mystery.
Cool.
Steve's super unhappy about it.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, I'm apologizing in advance. You know, there's been a whole lot of talk about JonBenet Ramsey. That's how you say that, right? JonBenet? John
I believe
Bennett?
so.
JonBenet?
I think it's
Benet.
JonBenet Ramsey lately, and I think it's mostly because of that AMA that happened. But we're not ready to tackle that one, if ever. I mean, probably we will at some point, but it's huge, and we want to, get some experts and really do it right.
that one's
More
gonna take a lot
a
of
la
legwork.
Jeff Davis 8 sort of situation. But instead, I will bring you something equally tragic. Yay!
Well, not.
Yay.
That is honestly, I think, a little more interesting than the JonBenet Ramsey mystery.
It is a strange little tale.
It's strange. It's really strange. We're going to talk about the disappearance of Madeleine McCann and a few points of order before I start. One is that this is one of those stories that Steve hates that deals with missing little kids. So if that's not your cup of tea, it's not in particularly gory or anything like that. It's just a missing kid. But if that's not your cup of tea, this is one to skip.
So I can skip this?
No, you cannot.
Oh, come on. I don't want to help.
Nope. You gotta. This is part of the deal, Steve.
Fine.
We do the ones I don't want to do.
Fine. I'll help, but I'm not going to like it.
Yeah, I know you won't. It's okay.
We got to solve this one, guys,
Yeah.
for the sake of the family.
Also, this was a recommendation from Johan, right? Johan, right? Yeah, I think late last year. I called dibs on it. I'm sorry it's taken me so long to do it. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Johan.
Okay, you guys ready?
Sure.
Sadly.
Steve is not.
No.
Cool. Sorry. Madeleine McCann was born in May of 2003 to Kate and Jerry McCann. They were both physicians, and they also had a set of twins that were younger than Madeleine. She was born in
Leicester.
Leicester.
Is it Leicester? I think it's Leicester, isn't
I
it?
think it's Leicester.
The good news is we've been getting a lot of feedback about mispronouncing stuff. And
Sorry.
Because we're really good at that?
sorry, it's going to happen a lot in this episode, but also, let's be fair, it's just the way we pronounce it in America sometimes. Some of this stuff is just the way we say it here. Sorry. Anyways, so they lived in, oh my gosh, how did we say it?
Leicester?
Leicester?
It looks like it should be Leicester, but I think it's pronounced Leicester.
Okay. And then in May in 2007, the McCanns went on holiday to Portugal with a group of family friends and their children as well. The adults of this group eventually became to be referred as the Tapas 7.
And I think they were the top of 7 didn't include the McCanns, right?
No, it did.
It did.
No, I thought there were 9 people in the group, and the top
Oh.
of 7 were the 7 friends of the McCanns.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm the storyteller here, and I can't remember who's
Small point. Yeah.
Sorry, point of order. So May 3rd was the last day of the trip. We're just going to delve right into the story. It's a long one. I'm sorry. This is going to be one of those ones you have to listen to me talk for a while.
Damn it. The way you drone on.
I know. I'm sorry. It's just like wah, 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 wah,
Yeah.
wah. So May 3rd was the last day of this trip, and the group was staying at a resort called something that Joe's going to have to pronounce for me.
Well, I'm probably going to mangle it, but I think it's Praia de Luz.
Praia de
that's
Luz.
how I
Yeah,
would
that
pronounce
sounds
it.
right. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
There were 8 kids that were part of in this resort. That morning, while the Tapas 7 took a walk, the kids played in the kids club, and then after lunch, the families headed to the pool where the very last known picture of Madeline was taken. After the pool, the kids went back to the kids club until about 6 p.m.
I'm guessing that was probably checkout, come get your kid.
I don't have that sense. I have the sense that kids could stay as long as they wanted just because of some stuff that happens a little bit later in the story.
Yeah.
But at resorts like that, typically you could drop your kids off if you're going to have dinner, say, which would be like a safe alternative to some of the things that happen in this story.
Yeah, I kind of wonder why they didn't use the little daycare center.
Yeah, that's my sense. I could be wrong. I know that when I worked on the cruise ship, we had that. And I think a lot of resorts offer that sort of thing.
It would make sense.
Yeah, kind of almost 24/7 care for kids. Not 24/7, but almost.
Got it.
Yeah, if you want to party the night away, though, yeah.
Yeah, you may as well drop your kids off.
Hell yeah.
Anyways, Jerry had a tennis lesson at 6, so Kate picked up the kids and hung out with them for a little while and, fed them and bathed them and all that stuff. And then at about 7, she and Jerry both... Jerry. Oh my gosh.
Jerry.
This is like Parks and Rec up in here. I'm so sorry.
Pretend
Jerry.
there's a J instead
Yeah.
of a G in his name.
Sorry. Jerry and Kate, the mom, put their 3 kids to bed in the room that the kids were sleeping in. It wasn't the room they were all sleeping in. It was the parents had the one room, and then
It was
the
an apartment.
kids- It was an apartment, yeah. And the kids had one room they were all sharing. The 2 little ones were in a crib set up next to a single bed that Madeline was staying in. Madeline was wearing pink Eeyore PJs and cuddling with her pink blanket and pink cuddle cat.
She really liked pink, huh?
She liked pink.
What
she
is
was a
it?
3-year-old
She's a little girl.
What is Eeyore, by the way?
Eeyore?
Yeah.
From Winnie the Pooh?
Oh, okay. It's been so long since I've read Winnie the Pooh. I mean, I've forgotten about Eeyore.
How? We're not even going to go into
No,
that.
we
mystery.
can't.
just
That's a different
That's a
mystery.
mystery.
been a long time.
Yeah, because nothing ever bad happens to upper middle class white folks that are at a resort. The Tapas 7 and the McCanns followed their typical evening routine, which was leaving their kids in an unlocked room and having dinner.
Yeah.
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 Tapas, which is where
In retro-
Tapas 7 comes from.
In retrospect, yeah, it does seem like a bad idea.
Maybe not a great idea. They were about 160 feet as the crow flies away from the apartment the McCanns were staying in, is 5A, which apparently, according to Kate, was about a 30 or 45 second walk. I'm having a really hard time figuring out how this place was set up, but sure.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm surprised at is that for all the stuff that's been written on the internet about this, nobody anywhere has a layout of the resort.
Yeah, I
crime scene.
did a lot of looking for
Yeah.
that, and I couldn't find a single one.
yeah.
I've got to guess that it's one of those places where the restaurants and everything are centrally located and all the apartments are splayed around them in kind of an arc
Yeah, although
to allow
the
everybody relatively straight access.
The
That's the
description,
guess.
the description that I heard was that they were on the other side of the pool. So I don't totally know how this whole thing was set up, but they had reserved this specific table that was close to their rooms for 8:30 p.m. for the entire time that they were on holiday. And the way that Kate reserved this table, again, because nothing bad ever happens to upper white middle class people, was she wrote a note and just left it on the front desk where like anybody could have seen it.
And this is indicative of a bunch of things that seem innocuous to anybody who's doing them until something like this happens.
That's fair.
And you start all of these silly little things that you think nothing of start cropping.
These little red flags that you can look back on and say, well, that was dumb. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
That you don't even think about in the moment.
Yeah, but she said in the note, she said, what? I want this table so I can watch my kids in apartment 5C.
She said, we're part of a group that are all in this block of apartments. We've got kids with us that will be in bed. So we want to reserve this table that's the closest one for 8:30 every night for the time that we're here.
Oh, I see.
And I remember something about, she had written some of this, or at least the request, I want to say it was in a guest book. Is this right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't just a Post-it note. It was in the book that anybody walking by could have read.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
So probably another guest who signed in right after them.
Always possible.
Yeah.
As mentioned, they did this every night. This was what they did every night. So it was a strong pattern. And had somebody been planning anything nefarious, it would have been a fairly easy thing to plan because they knew exactly what was going to happen at 8:30 every night. Oh, and also, as a fun side note, because the patio was closest to the restaurant,
This is what drives me nuts.
Yeah, they left the patio door unlocked because it only locked from the inside. They left it closed, but they left it unlocked. Instead of, adding the extra, 10 seconds to walk around to the front and use your key and at least kind of safely have your kids in a locked apartment.
Seems like a better idea.
Seems like a better idea. Again, it's one of those little red flags, right, that I would think as a not parent who doesn't have to deal with kids all the time, I would think I would absolutely lock them in that apartment.
Sure, I would too. But
I can see this. I can see my parents doing something like this in the late 70s, early 80s when people didn't have bad things happen all the time that they knew about. Not to say that bad things didn't happen, but when everybody is so security conscious, it shocks me. And the only thing that I can think that prompted this is a bit of what you were alluding to, which is they come from a very comfortable, safe place.
Yeah.
So those simple security steps just don't seem necessary.
Yeah.
well,
I mean, that's the only way I can rationalize this.
and you're in a fancy resort too. You have people would typically expect things to be safer conditions there, right?
Yeah, but it's not. The sense that I have is that the patio opens out into a street, or at least an alleyway.
Now,
It's not.
So the patio. I thought the patio doors were visible from the Tapas restaurant. They weren't?
They were.
They were.
But just because it's visible
Yeah.
doesn't mean you're staring at it the whole time.
No, not at all. But
And it's a row of patio doors, so the person that's in the apartment next to you may be coming and going out of the patio doors, and you can't necessarily tell the difference, right?
Yeah, I suppose it's dark and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have you been out at a restaurant on a patio in the evening and had a conversation and dinner with people and never noticed the jillion people that walked by across the street? You're focused in front of you, not really far away. Not to say that they're bad parents and they weren't watching, but you can't watch that continually.
No,
Yeah.
you would think they'd be like kind of keeping an eye on it though.
You would. You'd think that.
Would think
Yeah.
that, wouldn't you?
I would.
Yeah. To their credit, the parents did take shifts on checking on the kids, because all of the parents, it wasn't just Madeline's parents. I'm going to call her Maddie. I've seen it a couple times. It's not always there, but I am going to call her Maddie, just so you guys
cool.
know. Same,
No problem.
It's the same thing. I'm not adding a new character. Don't worry. Maddie's parents weren't the only ones who left a kid unattended. As I said, there were 8 kids in total, and they were all left in their rooms. And I think they all, as far as I can understand, had unlocked patio doors, and
They were all doing the same.
they were all kind of doing the same.
Well, there's 5 other children besides the McCanns. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they had the twins and then Madeline.
Yeah. Jerry carried out the first check at 9:05 p.m., which was, about a half hour after they left him alone. He said that he thought that he had left the door to the kids' room only slightly open at maybe a 5 or 10 degrees openness
An
angle.
angle?
Yeah. But when he checked on them, the door was wide open. He pulled it back to be almost entirely shut after, glancing in on them, and then returned to dinner. And then at 9:15, another one of the Tapas 7, Jane Tanner, went to check on her kids. She said that she passed Jerry on the way back to check on her kids. Like I said, it was that alleyway streetway they would have both had to have walked on to get to their apartments. And he said that he had stopped to chat with another vacationer on his way back. And the oddity here is that neither Jerry nor the other man saw Jane Tanner.